Have you ever heard of the best global brands of 2015 list? I sure in hell haven't heard of that before. So yeah, don't worry if you never heard of that group before, because I definitely have never heard of that group before. But they have released some information that's actually pretty revealing about Nintendo. This is the first time since the inception of this list that Nintendo was not within the top 100 list. It's only 100 companies they include. If you're under 100, they no longer care. And basically, guys, Nintendo, right, did not make the list for the first time ever. The reason they say is because Nintendo is not keeping up with the changes in people's lives, pointing to its failure to jump on the smartphone game bandwagon in a timely manner. So basically, guys, because Nintendo is not really adapting with the 21st century, hey, I have no problem with that point. That's pretty much correct. Nintendo is still living in the past, and that's why they've always been in their entire history, except for the NES. But obviously, during the NES, and that was basically their. Obviously, I knew they'd been around since the 1800s, but that was really their first venture into the home video game, market. So they had nothing to, create a precedent over. I know they had arcade games, but obviously that's not really, a big deal. That's not really what home consoles is. But after the NES, Nintendo has really been copying their style since then. And under the exception, that's always going to work. But in reality, that's not always going to work. And eventually, you actually have to innovate, like you guys used to do. So yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with this list. It definitely has a point. If you're wondering, number one is Apple with $170 billion, and Google with $120 billion. I'm not entirely sure where that number comes from. Is that just sales? That's definitely not, the GDP of the company. That's definitely not the total net worth of the company. I'm guessing that's maybe the profits last year, or maybe the revenue, which is before expenses. I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, some other brands who made the list: Toyota, Honda, Canon, Nissan, Sony, and Panasonic all made the list. Alright. They said the rankings began in 2001, so okay, now we have some information about when this actually began. So that's pretty big. This is over a 10-year period, man. Companies like Facebook and Amazon are quickly coming into the list, while companies like Nintendo. I don't see Microsoft here. I'm assuming Microsoft made it, because Microsoft is even bigger than Sony. You know what I'm saying? Because they made Windows. Almost every computer these days is Windows, especially if it's a PC. I know there's Linux users, I know there's Mac users, but for the most part, most people still use PC, which is a Microsoft OS. So overall, that's really all I have to say, man. It's pretty sad to see this happen to Nintendo, But in the end, this site definitely has a point. I have no problem with their inception. I have no problem with their prediction. But one thing that maybe the people should look at is the actual, profits or revenue of Nintendo. I believe it's still pretty good. But obviously, remember, we all know they've been losing money for a couple of years anyway. I know last year they made money, but they've been losing money for a bunch of years before that. So I get it. I get why this happens. So overall, that's it. So thank you. Bye.